40 volcanoes erupting simultaneously right now on this planet, not over the last year, not over the last month, right now. As you are watching this video, let that number sit with you for a second. 40. And the question that every volcanologist, every seismologist, every geologist watching this data is quietly asking, is this normal? Or is the Ring of Fire entering a phase we have not seen in modern recorded history? Further into this video, I am going to show you exactly what the data is telling us. I am going to show you which volcanoes are active right now. I am going to show you the tectonic picture behind all of this, and I am going to tell you honestly what scientists are saying and what they are not saying publicly. Stay with me, because this is not a story about one volcano. This is a story about the entire planet. So let me set this up properly, because I think the number 40 needs context. According to the Smithsonian Institution's Global Volcanism Program, the most authoritative volcanic monitoring database on Earth at any given time, approximately 20 volcanoes are in active eruption on our planet. That is considered the long-term average, 20 simultaneously active volcanoes as a baseline. Right now, that number is running significantly above average. Multiple tracking systems, including the Global Volcanism Program, volcano observatories across the Pacific, and satellite SO2 monitoring via the Tropomi instrument on the Sentinel-5P satellite, are all recording an unusually elevated number of simultaneously active volcanic systems. We are talking about volcanoes across Indonesia, the Philippines, Japan, Alaska and the Aleutian Chain, Central America, South America along the Andes, the Caribbean, Iceland, and the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and Africa's East African Rift System. This is not concentrated in one region. This is global. And the concentration of activity along the Pacific Ring of Fire specifically, that horseshoe-shaped belt of subduction zones and volcanic arcs that encircles the entire Pacific Ocean, is what is drawing serious scientific attention right now. I will explain exactly why further into this video. But first, I want you to understand what is actually happening on the ground, because behind every data point on a volcano monitoring map, there are real people, real communities, real lives being upended right now. In Indonesia alone, a country that sits on the most volcanically dense section of the Ring of Fire, multiple volcanic systems are currently in elevated states of activity simultaneously. Merapi on Java, one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world, with 24 million people living within its potential impact zone, currently producing regular pyroclastic density currents flowing down its flanks. Semeru, also on Java, erupting persistently with ash columns reaching thousands of meters. Ili Lewotolok in East Nusa Tenggara, Ibu in North Maluku, Merapi in West Sumatra, all simultaneously active, all being monitored at elevated alert levels by the Indonesian Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation, PVMBG. In the Philippines, Canlaon Volcano on Negros Island escalated dramatically with a major explosive eruption, forcing thousands to evacuate surrounding communities. In Japan, we have covered Sakurajima, but Sakurajima is not alone. Suwano-Sejima in the Ryukyu chain is erupting, Nishinoshima in the Ogasawara Islands, Aira caldera system showing elevated ground deformation. In Alaska and the Aleutians, Shishaldin, Great Sitkin, Semisopochnoi, all in elevated states of unrest or active eruption. In Central America, Santiaguito in Guatemala, producing regular explosions. Pacaya, also Guatemala, effusing lava flows. Reventador in Ecuador, Popocatépetl in Mexico, sitting directly above 25 million people in the greater Mexico City metropolitan area, regularly producing ash emissions and elevated seismicity. In South America, Villarrica in Chile, Ubinas in Peru, Sabancaya in Peru, all active, and in Iceland, The Reykjanes Peninsula has entered what geologists are calling a new volcanic era. After 800 years of volcanic silence on that peninsula, it has now had multiple eruptions since 2021. Fagradalsfjall in 2021, Meradalir in 2022, Litli Hrutur in 2023, and then the dramatic eruptions near Grindavik in late 2023 and into 2024, forcing the evacuation of an entire town, threatening the Svartsengi geothermal power plant that provides heat and electricity to 30,000 people, cracking roads, swallowing infrastructure with lava flows. This is not business as usual. Something is happening across multiple systems simultaneously, and when I saw all of this mapped together for the first time, I had to look at it several times, guys, because the geographic spread of this activity is genuinely extraordinary. Before we get into the deep science of what is driving all of this, can you do me a quick favor? Give this video a like and a hype. Share it with someone who needs to see this. Leave me a comment below. I want to know where you are watching from. Are you near any of these volcanic systems? Tell me. It costs you nothing. It keeps this channel running so I can stay on the pulse for you. Okay, let's get into it, because this is where it gets extraordinary. So what is actually driving this elevated global volcanic activity? Is 40 simultaneous eruptions a coincidence, or is there a deeper mechanism at work here? Let me break this down properly. The first thing you need to understand is the Ring of Fire itself. The Ring of Fire is not a single fault. It is not a single volcanic chain. It is a 40,000 kilometer, 25,000 mile belt of subduction zones, transform faults, and volcanic arcs that encircles the entire Pacific Ocean. It contains approximately 75% of the world's active volcanoes. It is responsible for approximately 90% of the world's earthquakes, and it is fundamentally driven by one process: subduction. The Pacific Plate, the largest tectonic plate on Earth, is moving. It is being consumed around its edges, diving beneath the surrounding plates, going down into the mantle, and as it goes down, it drags water with it. Hydrated minerals in the oceanic crust, sediment saturated with seawater. All of that water gets driven into the mantle wedge above the subducting slab, and when water enters hot mantle rock, it lowers the melting point of that rock dramatically. The rock melts, magma is generated, and that magma rises into the overlying crust, into volcanic arcs, into the volcanoes we are seeing erupt right now. This is the fundamental engine. It never stops. It has been running for hundreds of millions of years, and it is running right now. But here is the key question. Does this engine run at a constant speed, or does it have cycles? Does it have periods of elevated output? And this, guys, this is where the science gets genuinely fascinating and genuinely important. So I did a research deep dive into what the geological and volcanological literature is actually saying about global volcanic periodicity. And what I found is something that I think most people are completely unaware of. There is a body of scientific work from researchers at institutions including University College London, the German Research Center for Geosciences in Potsdam, and the Geological Survey of Israel that has examined the relationship between global eustatic sea level changes, ice sheet loading and unloading, and volcanic eruption rates. And the findings are striking. During periods of rapid deglaciation, when large ice sheets melt and sea levels rise, volcanic activity globally tends to increase. The mechanism is what scientists call glacial isostatic adjustment. That is the scientific term. Let me explain it simply. Ice sheets are extraordinarily heavy. The weight of continental ice sheets, like the ones that covered much of the northern hemisphere during the last ice age, suppresses volcanic activity. The pressure of that ice literally pushes down on the crust. It acts like a lid, holding magma chambers compressed. When those ice sheets melt, that pressure is removed. The crust rises. Pressure on magma chambers decreases. And when pressure on magma decreases, dissolved gases exsolve, magma expands, and eruptions become more likely. This process has been documented in the geological record around Iceland particularly. At the end of the last ice age, approximately 12,000 years ago, Volcanic eruption rates in Iceland increased by a factor of between 20 and 30 compared to glacial maximum rates, 20 to 30 times more volcanic activity, as the ice melted. Now, here is why this matters for right now. We are in a period of accelerating global ice loss. Greenland is losing ice at a rate that has accelerated dramatically in recent decades. Antarctica is losing ice. Mountain glaciers worldwide are retreating at rates not seen in thousands of years. And some researchers, including Dr. Carolina Pagli at the University of Leeds and Dr. Freystein Sigmundsson at the University of Iceland, have specifically raised the question of whether modern ice loss could be influencing volcanic activity. The scale of modern ice loss is obviously far smaller than full deglaciation, and the timescales are different. Scientists are careful, and appropriately so, about making direct causal claims here. But the physical mechanism is real, it is documented, and it is operating in the same direction as what we are currently observing. This is not conspiracy. This is not sensationalism. This is peer-reviewed geological science. And it is a conversation that is happening right now in volcanological research communities. But there is a second factor. And this one is more immediate, more direct, the Pacific Plate itself. The Pacific Plate is not static. It moves at different rates in different locations. It interacts with surrounding plates in complex ways. And there is growing evidence from GPS geodetic networks. Networks of precisely positioned GPS stations that measure ground movement to millimeter accuracy, that the Pacific Plate's interaction with the surrounding plates has been in an elevated stress state. We saw a magnitude 9.0 earthquake strike Tohoku, Japan in 2011, one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. That earthquake did not just shake the ground, it moved the Japanese island of Honshu approximately 2.4 meters, 8 feet, to the east. It shifted the distribution of stress across the entire Pacific Plate boundary system. Large earthquakes redistribute tectonic stress. When stress is redistributed, some sections of plate boundaries that were locked and accumulating stress suddenly find themselves closer to failure, and closer to failure means closer to earthquake. And major subduction zone earthquakes, they can trigger volcanic responses. We saw this after the 2010 Chile earthquake. Volcanic activity at several Chilean volcanoes increased in the months following. After the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, volcanic unrest signals increased at multiple Japanese volcanic systems. We have had multiple major subduction zone earthquakes in recent years: Kamchatka, Alaska, Tonga, Indonesia. Each of these events redistributes stress across the Ring of Fire system. And cumulative stress redistribution across multiple large earthquakes over the past decade may be contributing to the elevated volcanic activity we are now observing. This is not a clean linear relationship. It is complex. It is probabilistic, but the correlation is there in the data. And serious researchers are taking it seriously. So what does all of this mean practically? What are the real-world implications of having 40 volcanoes active simultaneously? Let me be very clear here, because I want to give you genuine information, not panic, not doomsday, real information. First, aviation. We touched on this with Shishaldin, but multiply that across 40 simultaneously active volcanic systems. Volcanic ash is one of the most serious hazards in aviation. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, estimates that volcanic disruptions cost the global aviation industry billions of dollars per major event. With multiple volcanic systems simultaneously active across Pacific air corridors, the probability of significant aviation disruption is elevated. Rerouting, delays, increased fuel burn in extreme scenarios involving simultaneous eruptions at multiple high-output systems, the kind of cascading aviation disruption we saw with Eyjafjallajökull in 2010, could be replicated simultaneously across multiple regions. Second, food security. This one people rarely think about, but it is critical. Volcanic ash fall damages crops. Fluorine contamination from volcanic gases poisons livestock. Lahars, volcanic mud flows destroy agricultural land for years after an eruption. Indonesia feeds hundreds of millions of people from its volcanic island agricultural systems. The Philippines is a major rice producer. Guatemala, Ecuador, Peru. Agricultural nations with active volcanoes above their farming zones. Simultaneous elevated volcanic activity across these regions is not just a geological curiosity, it is a food systems risk. Third, the human displacement picture. Every volcano currently at elevated alert status has communities living around it, communities that may need to evacuate, that are already being disrupted. The cumulative human displacement from simultaneous volcanic activity across the Ring of Fire. When you add up the evacuation numbers from Indonesia, the Philippines, Central America, South America, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of people currently displaced or under active evacuation orders right now, today. That is a humanitarian situation of real scale, and it receives almost no coordinated global attention because each individual event seems local and contained. But when you zoom out and look at the full picture, the scale is significant. So what do we watch for? What are the signals that would indicate this elevated period is escalating further? The key indicators that volcanologists and monitoring agencies are tracking right now. Correlated SO2 flux increases across multiple systems simultaneously. If we see SO2 output rising not just at one or two volcanoes, but across many systems at the same time, that would indicate a broad-scale increase in magmatic output. That would be a genuinely significant signal. Caldera inflation at the major supervolcano systems. Yellowstone in the United States, Campi Flegrei in Italy, which has actually been showing significant ground uplift in recent years, with the Italian Civil Protection Department raising its alert level to all in the Philippines. These are the systems where large-scale caldera inflation would represent a truly serious escalation of global volcanic risk. Major new submarine eruptions along mid-ocean ridge systems. Most volcanic activity on Earth actually happens underwater, along the mid-ocean ridges. We do not see most of it, but if elevated magmatic output is driving the current period of surface volcanic activity, we might expect to see elevated hydrothermal activity and new submarine eruptions along ridge systems as well, and seismicity patterns across the Ring of Fire. When major subduction zone earthquakes cluster in space and time, historical patterns suggest elevated volcanic responses can follow. Monitoring seismicity patterns alongside volcanic activity gives us the most complete picture of what the Ring of Fire is doing. Now I want to be honest with you, as I always am. 40 simultaneous eruptions is elevated above the long-term average. It is scientifically significant. It is worth serious attention, but it is not unprecedented in the geological record. The Earth has been through periods of far more intense global volcanic activity. What we are seeing right now may be a natural fluctuation. It may be influenced by the factors I have described: ice loss, stress redistribution, plate dynamics. It may intensify further, or it may begin to quiet down. No scientist on Earth can tell you with certainty which direction this goes. What they can tell you, what I can tell you, is that the monitoring systems are running, the data is being collected, and the people whose job it is to watch this planet's volcanic systems, they are paying very close attention right now. And so should we. Guys, I hope this gave you a picture you have not seen anywhere else. Not just a list of erupting volcanoes, but the real science behind what is driving this, the tectonic engine, the deglaciation connection, the stress redistribution from major earthquakes, the real human stakes. This story is connected to so much more: the Ring of Fire seismicity, the caldera systems, the aviation and food security implications. All of that is in the end screen. Go check it out. I have been covering all of these individual events as they happen, and I will keep doing that. Because right now, this planet is telling us something, and I am on the pulse for you. If you want to support the channel, you know how it works. I do not want to do a brand thing here. A coffee goes a long way. And if you are new here, subscribe, because this story is not over, not even close. Stay safe, guys. Be aware. Know what this planet is doing beneath your feet. Bye bye.